save some money in our classrooms, and that's something that all of us have to deal with at some point or another, whether your school has a really large budget or whether your school has a very tiny budget for the arts. At the end of the day, it's something that we all need to be thinking about, but not just in the arts, also obviously something about every class and how we as artists and our students as artists can actually help benefit and become more of a really a viability inside of the school, become more viable to the school district, and because of that, obviously, then they won't be cutting us as quickly as we like to believe that they will, right? I often, whenever I go through and I do presentations, whether for my classroom or any other type, I like to start off with a joke, as you do. So if you'll bear with me for a moment. So, dear teachers, I would like to talk to you about saving money. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I know. All right, so there are going to be a lot of jokes throughout this thing, because really money can be extremely boring and extremely tiresome, but I'm going to make it as fun and exciting as I can. So let's talk about budgets. A lot of times whenever you think about math, numbers, us as artists, we have a hard time thinking about these things. They tend to hurt our heads, and I know about you, they hurt my head a lot. But depending on what kind of district you're coming from, again, whether it's on the high end of the scale or on the low end of the scale, you might have a budget of literally $0, and that's okay too, you know. You work with what you have, and that's kind of the key mantra of everything that I've been learning so far as a teacher. Even though I am relatively new to the game, I'm only 3 years in now, but still, when you've got a budget of 0, you make it work, right? So I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about some cheap and simple ways to do it, how technology can increase and save you oodles of money, whether you like tech or not. I promise you it will be your new best friend. Simple technology, mind you, simple technology. As well as just simple ways to not only save money, but now to make money. And I promise you this, even though these schools are run by the government, they like money, much like any other kind of business, right? So if you're making them money and not spending money, they're going to like you even more. So whenever time comes for cuts, they're going to look at the math department and not the art department, because we're making them money. So let's talk about that. So whenever you guys became teachers, way back here in the beginning, the dawn of time, right? In the beginning, we all wanted to be teachers because of the great joy we received from our students' enlightenment, right? That's always what they tell you, right? You want to be a teacher because that nice little spark you get whenever the students finally have that aha moment, and that's wonderful. And we still get that to this day, and it's a great feeling, but of course you got to pay the bills. So, but, right, okay, all right, we're catching on now how my presentation's going to go. But, of course, now we're in our modern day, and you can see we have a laundry list of things to deal with, like budget cuts, disinterested kids, cell phones in the classroom, dear God, lack of supplies, administrative red tape, and, of course, long lists during convention presentations that we have to tolerate as teachers. See? All right. It's going to be fun. I know it's the last one for the day, guys, but I promise you it's going to be entertaining. So, of course, we have our wonderful quiz here dealing with propaganda. Who do we point the finger at? Who do we blame? Well, of course, we can blame big government, right? It's really easy to yell and scream at our state senators, of course. That's easy. Our administrators, that's easy as heck, too. And, of course, the students. They're the ones who are not performing to the level that I desire them to. But, of course, as we know by getting out tests, anytime that you have on a test, none of the above, it's probably the right answer. And in this case, it is. Now, this is the hard part of the presentation, so bear with me. Are you ready? It's us. I know, that's the part that isn't going to win me any favors, but I promise you, deal with me, right? There we go. It is our fault. Here's why. As artists, we are literally the avant-garde. We are the forerunners of these schools. Math has not changed since Socrates, and I promise you, he's a boring guy, right? Nothing's going on over there. We are constantly changing. We have contemporary art. There's no contemporary math. What's going on? I mean, you know what I mean? 2 plus 2 is still 4, right? The arts are constantly changing. We are, of course, we're always, the arts are the first to get cut. We're the first to be on the chopping block because we are the front line, because we're shaking things up constantly. But we're also the first to make changes. So we need to make those changes. We've allowed ourselves to become arts and crafts. Not that there's anything wrong with arts and crafts, but let's be fair. At some point it tends to lean away from museum quality and more into, well, let's paint a cute box with paints and go home and feel good about ourselves. And I teach at the high school level, and that's great. If you want to start at an elementary school level and paint some boxes, please do, because I promise you, your students are gaining information from that. But after about the 50th box, by the time the students get to me, they're no longer interested in arts and crafts. Really, we've allowed ourselves to become, and I know you've all heard it, so say it with me, just art, right? We've all heard it. We've all heard it. We've allowed ourselves to become that. Why? Why is it not just math? Why is it not just English? Now, I'm not saying it's a war. I'm not saying I'm drawing the battle lines. But this is where we're at, right? This is where we're at right now. Right? So again, we have to make ourselves more of a commodity, a precious commodity, to deal with. One of my fellow teachers actually said this offhandedly during a teacher meeting, and I latched to it like nobody's business. We are in the business of being creative, but unfortunately we are in the precarious position of having to build a plane while it's already flying. It's already in flight, and they're telling us, please, just make this better. We can't stop. We can't just stop and re-energize the entire system. We have to do it while it's in flight. And I promise you right now we are in fact crashing, and that really, really stinks. But guess what? That's what we do. So, I'll give you a very quick instance, and I'm not making this up. I literally made this about 3 seconds ago because I wanted to be as fresh and as creative as I could possibly make it, so bear with me that some of it's a little bit cheesy. But let's imagine ourselves, take yourself to a nice imaginary calm place, that place whenever you're not giving out grades. Let's imagine that you're on the coast of North Carolina here, your students are bored and only think about their time on the beach. That's all they really want. And of course, because you're a small town, your budget is extremely and ridiculously low. So you say, well, tough, I can, paint a box, right? That's what we fall back on. Arts and crafts, paint a box. That's what we fall back on. I apologize if you paint boxes in your classroom. I'm going to continually pick on that and math. So I made this up literally 3 seconds ago. So what do? Leave the classroom. You are on the beach. People pay good money to go to the beach. So you're on the beach. All of a sudden you can make sand sculptures. That's three-dimensional art. You can use science lessons to talk about the tides and then the moon and all that jazz. You can use chiaroscuro techniques of the sun rising over the beach and paint a nice little visage of that. You can grab a stick and draw in the sand. I know it sounds extremely boring, but I promise you, give a stick to a kid and he'll do something fun with it. Eventually poking somebody's eye out, but let's be fair, that's kind of fun too. They'll create their own watercolor. This is a project I've literally done. Create their own watercolor brushes using local grasses and local seawater, and see how the salt in the water pertains to the actual watercolor. How does that actually affect it? That cost me nothing, and the kids love every second of it, and that's like a week-long lesson. So, let's talk about supplies. We have a lot of supplies, and let's be fair, that's where most of our budget goes off to. So, paints. I like paints. I'm personally an acrylic man. I'd like to be an oils man, but I also have no money of my own. So, I use acrylics, but of course, you start buying, umber red and, fire red. I need 2 of those, apparently. And what do you end up with? A bunch of little half tubes, right? That's what we end up with. So instead, things that we already know, right? Limit your entire classroom down to just the primaries. Now, that might seem very obvious, but I promise you, it takes a little bit to be a stick in the mud to be yourself and say, no, we're just going to use these. We teach these to our kids all the time using the color wheel, but we don't actually live up to it. Oh, just use green out of the tube. That's fine. Make your own green. I got 3 colors. Go buy a big tub of paint. Of course, we know a little bit about the printing industry. My background, actually, my grandfather was in the printing industry, so I know a lot about it. But you can use your RGB, just straightforward, red, green, blue, but you're never going to get those great mixing colors. So instead, don't buy red, green, blue. Instead, you buy CMYK, K in this case being black, and a white tube. Now you've got 5 tubs of paint that you can make any color under the Tuscan sun. I just went online real quick and looked at the prices. Not that you can actually see them here, but of course we're going to have a test because that's what we are supposed to do, right? So you can buy tempera, you can buy oils, you can buy acrylic. Now, of course, we know instantly that temperas are the cheapest out there because, well, they're cheap, right? But there are plenty of famous paintings that are done with tempera. You can make tempera at home. It's kind of gross because it's like eggs and stuff, but tell the kids not to lick their fingers and we'll be fine. So I looked at the prices here. Of course, obviously, tempera is very cheap. I just kind of average the numbers together. But let's say for some reason that you're a psychotic person, you want to buy a gallon of paint. It's just a lot of paint. Run the numbers here real quick, and there's a difference, just getting rid of oils entirely. There's a difference of about $357.12 per gallon between tempera and acrylic. It's a butt ton of money that your school will thank you for saving. And again, the more we save, the less they want to fire us. On top of that, what we're going to paint on? Well, you can go out and buy cheap canvases, and I promise you, Michael's always has some crazy deal that we can go and exploit. But instead, I do a lot of murals in my classroom as well, because I'm trying to make my school look less and less like a prison. So I go out to Lowe's or Home Depot, I buy some of this masonite board, cost me about $10, and I now have a massive piece of wood to paint upon. I actually have gone over to wood shop, I've had them cut this down into size, and they paint right on it. It costs me nickels compared to canvas, and the kids don't really care one bit. I also get to talk about gessoing the board, whereas with a pre-gessoed canvas, they don't know what the heck gesso is. I do another example here, I'll show you in a little bit, where they actually do a lot of graffiti. Well, the school does not like me graffitiing on their bricks outside, so I go out and buy some masonite board that looks like bricks, costs me $25, and the kids eat every second of it up. They love it. Alright, inks. My background is in painting and drawing, so I like dealing with inks, and I grew up using Graph pens that are crazy expensive. Now, India ink is not that expensive, which is nice, but big pens are even cheaper. Again, this is not something we think about using in the art world. This art, this office, right? But Here's a local, or here's a artist here named Sarah Gisato, excuse me. All done completely with a big pen. It's really cheap, and you're still getting art. The medium, the material does not matter one bit. Printmaking. I love printmaking. It's really fun. I like very high contrast photos and high contrast prints. So you can go out and buy your own printmaker and spend lots of money. Your school yells at you, and you never get to buy another thing as long as you're at that school. You can make your own, and a lot of you might already have. Unfortunately, the school I moved into has not, so I don't have the $50 or so to make one every time. So that's a problem for me individually. So instead, I go back to things you might do in elementary school, right? You can do glue prints, you can do cardboard prints. Save those cardboard prints, like so. These are high school level cardboard prints. All they're doing is they're ripping pieces of cardboard. There's not even scissors involved. You can put scissors and get even better quality, but literally, we're talking rips of cardboard and you're getting awesome prints. Save those prints, and all of a sudden you have a really cool kind of faux 2.5 degree kind of sculpture. This is an actual artist piece here, Johns. Then go save that cardboard even more, right? I'm talking a lot about cardboard. I'll stop soon, I promise. Save that cardboard even more. Now you can do some three-dimensional design. You can make abstracts. You can make really big things. You can make really interesting-looking things. You can go really far out. Have the kids make a human head out of ankles and things, out of cardboard, then talk about drawing in a planar style. Now they have something to reference that they made themselves. So now it's kind of going back into itself. You can go really, really in-depth. These are a couple things I found online here just real quick. These are all made out of strictly cardboard and some rubber cement. Again, you don't have to have just cardboard. You can use paper materials and plastic materials as well, kind of link things together. You're using things that you can buy at a grocery store, at a hardware store. Now, I have nothing against the art store. I love the art store. Too much of my paycheck goes to the art store. But when times are tough, look elsewhere. Here's another example of three-dimensional sculpture. Now, I'm a big fan of technology as well, so there's a program out there we'll talk about in a second, where you can actually model in 3 dimensions. It will print it out for you in layers, and then you can go through and cut those layers into a three-dimensional sculpture. This is one the students did of a Tyrannosaurus Rex head. I don't know if you can kind of see. So you can take a peek at that in a little bit here if you're interested. But I promise you, I'm not only going to talk about cardboard. I'm not the elementary school teacher who quickly starts hoarding paper towel rolls. It's kind of gross when you think about it. So we're not going to do that. Here's things you have lying around, right? These are just crayons. Give a kid a little tiny scribe or something. They'll make something really, really detailed out of it. That kid that spends 3 weeks doing one simple drawing because they're really detail-oriented, use that to your advantage, right? This takes, them years to do, right? All right, ceramics, keep on going. Oh, go back. Oh, gosh, I don't know if I can. Hang on. I don't have that one. There you go.
Yeah.
Can you get it?
I'm talking about little tiny.
Little crayons, that's all there. Little crayons, took the wrapper off and let them go to town. All right, ceramics, fun. Hey, kiln, crazy expensive. If you're lucky enough to already have one, good for you. I had one and it's broken, and the school refuses to pay for it, so I don't have a ceramics program. So, this is yours now. I'm stealing yours. Kilns can be very, very expensive. So instead, go use a barrel, a trash can, a grill, or a hole in the ground. Right? Toss some things in, set them on fire. Now all of a sudden you have a nice, fancy kiln in the making, basically. But not only that, but now you have a history lesson talking about Native American culture and how they used to actually make all of their pottery, right? So now all of a sudden we're getting that kind of cross-curricular that they want, and it's costing us a trash can. Yeah, it's literally costing us trash. All right, but of course it also has fire, so kids like that too. Burning things is great fun. All right. Finally, while you got that fire burning, charcoals are really expensive, or relatively expensive for what they are, right? These are just not even technically charcoal. But places like Jerry's, I'm a big fan of them, but look, they're trying to get you to save money, which is really, really nice of them, but they know that it's crazy expensive. That's why everyone on their website, are they trying to get you to save money. Instead, while you got that fire burning with all your really cool ceramics inside, go ahead outside, grab some twigs off the local trees, shave them down, put them inside of a metal box, lock it securely, fire it overnight so it gets nice and toasty, and when you're all done, you have homemade charcoal. It costs you a stick. Yeah, a stick. Sure, yeah, please. If you guys want, I'll give you my website at the end. You can go ahead and email me. I'll send you this whole thing over if you're interested. But literally all you're doing is you're shaving down twigs, just you have to get the bark off of them, cut them to size, put them inside of something like a cookie tin or something. I actually found a YouTube video that walks you through the steps. Cut them, put them inside a little cookie tin or even like a metal pipe, Screw it on, it has to be secure, that's the key, it has to be secure. And then you just fire it overnight, and slowly but surely they start to really kind of get saturated with all this fire, and all their juices and moisture evaporates, and all you're left with is some really fun charcoal. And there's no mess afterwards. I mean, the charcoal's ready to go. You open it up out of a little bit of tinfoil, and it's done. I mean, it's ready. So, something to think about too. And again, keep in mind as I'm going along here, I'm not a fan of trash being used in the classroom. I mean, if you can pay for it, get the good stuff. There's no reason not to. But if you can cut a corner here and there, you might as well. You know, if you're someone who focuses on ceramics, then obviously focus on ceramics. My background is in drawing, a little bit of animation. I've made my own zoetrope, with my own 2 hands, because that's something that I do specifically. I've got a big project with it. Whenever I get to something like ceramics or that, it's not my background. So I'm not worried about dropping $3,000 into something that's going to be kind of a one-off project for my classroom. You have to obviously orchestrate it through yours. So charcoal, and that's it right there. All right, other things here. Back to sculpture. Something that I do in my classroom here, I'll show you an example. Something that I do in my classroom, I do like sculpture. I personally like more plaster. I like to really chisel things. Plaster is very expensive for what it is. I go to Lowe's, it is significantly cheaper. All right, we're talking, instead of $52, we're talking $15. So, it's easier to talk your boss into letting you shell out $15. I make casts. Just on my own, obviously I show the students how so they know, but I make casts just using old, reusable plastic container bucket things. And then I hand them, and I let them choose their size. Some are tall, some are long. I use whatever I have. And I let them grab it. But something to think about. Whenever you get to chisels look crazy expensive, right? You get a whole big set. A rasp alone costs $30. Are you kidding me? That's craziness. So instead, I use a screwdriver. I use 2 of them, actually. One is the hammer, because hammers are expensive, too. And then whenever the screwdriver never really breaks, they just switch, and now they have a brand new one, right? So you're alternating. I use a butter knife as a rasp. Make sure it has that little serrated edge. That thing cost me about a nickel. Go down to IKEA or Walmart. Screwdriver obviously is a chisel, and then another one. Cost me $1 each. I do an entire Art 3 lesson where this is one that a student made, completely chiseled. Unfortunately, it was just painted solid gold. I normally have to go through and paint them individually. But if you're interested, you can take a peek here. It's actually 2 dinosaurs fighting. Kid looked up anatomy drawings, had a whole spiel ahead of time, obviously, and then we finally got to the actual sculpture that was made with 2 screwdrivers. So, you don't need to spend money on it, obviously. These are some other examples here. As we'll get to a little bit later on, I am a big proponent of technology, so everything that the students do, they have to put online. I use a website called Deviant Art. I've used it way back when I was in high school. I've had it forever. So it's just something that I'm used to. It doesn't mean that it's the only site out there, it's just the one that I personally use. I have my own personal page, and I make all the students make their own personal pages. Deviant Art does have a lot of stuff on it that's not school appropriate, so I have them type in their actual birthday, and I kind of loom over them while they're doing that. But I have them type in their actual birthday, and it blocks out anything that's really over the top. So that way I don't have to think about it. Then they upload everything to their page. They link that over to our classes page, and that way whenever I meet people like yourself, and I want you to see our artwork, I simply give you one address that has all of their art and is continually updating, because they're the ones updating it, not me. Less work on my shoulders, more on theirs. And finally, if I need to do some grading over the weekend, I'm not lugging home a box of stuff. I'm not carrying home a stack of papers that inevitably one gets crushed, and of course it's that one little girl who really desperately said, please do not crush mine, and that's the one that gets destroyed. So instead, it's online, it can't be crushed. So these are a couple examples. All right. Deviant Art. Deviant Art. Yes, I use it all the time. It's totally free. You can't pay for it as well. Nothing against Deviant Art. I wouldn't pay for it. It gives you basically everything. The only thing it does if you pay for the upgrade is it gets rid of advertisements. Which is nice. I personally pay for it myself, but that's because I use it like all the time. So that's all. It's very nice. Other things. This is just kind of a quick aside. Try to rethink the classics, right? A lot of times we have them do a value scale or a color wheel because it's kind of easy art 1 kind of stuff, right? But instead of using paints, use Photoshop and have them find different fruits. Now you have a foods lesson. Have them find different scraps of paper from magazines. Now all of a sudden you have a fashion lesson built in. You can do this with really anything. Think outside the box. Could go soccer ball later on. My body hates it, but I love it. All right. So, just kind of simple ideas. Take the classic lessons, take the lessons that you're using all the time, and just find an easier way of doing it. Not because it's easier for the budget, because it's easier for you. It's okay to cut corners. All right, so now we're going into the 21st century. Just make century learning. See, puns, right? All right, Photoshop. We've all heard of it. Some of us really know it. Some of us do not really know it, that's okay. I actually originally was not a teacher, I worked in the design world for a number of years, so to me Photoshop is like, like the back end, oh, that's new. So I use Photoshop a lot in my own personal life, but it's $700 for the newest version. Of course, you could go online and buy the old version. The old version is still $400, that's for a computer, just one, not the whole classroom. Instead, I use GIMP, G-I-M-P. GIMP is totally free. Now, before, I'm not going to lie, it used to be pretty rinky-dink. They updated about a year and a half ago. It is crazy good. Like, I prefer it over Photoshop at this point, and I'm professional. Like, I still to this day do freelance work, and I use GIMP over Photoshop. It is totally free. Totally legal, by the way. I need to stress that with all the software. It's totally legal. From the beginning, whenever I first got into my school that I teach at now, I actually have developed a digital design program, and everything in that classroom is completely free. The class costs me nothing, other than the computer lab. It costs me nothing. It costs me nothing, costs the school nothing. And now whenever the students, well, we'll talk about that in a second. We'll get to that, I'm getting that myself. Other software that's really, really awesome. All right, so again, my background's in graphic design as well as animation. My bachelor's is in applied media arts animation. Flash is a really prominent animating program that, just buying Flash on its own, if you can find it not in a bundle, is just going to be $358.98. Of course, there are two programs out there, one called Pencil, one called Pivot, that deal with animation. This is a screenshot of Pencil. And then also, Pivot is one that if you have like an Art 1 class and you want to teach them the basics of animation, but even maybe you yourself are not really well versed in it, Pencil's a really great way, or excuse me, Pivot is a really great way to kind of dip the toe in the pool, so to say. It gives you a little stick figure guy and lets you slowly move his joints. So instead of making puppets and cutting out paper and lining up with the camera, you do it right in the computer, and again, it costs you nothing. I promise you your kids have seen videos on YouTube using little stick figures that fight and stuff. That's Pivot, and it's free. On the other side, again, my bread and butter when I was, before I became a teacher, was in design. And Illustrator is by far my absolute favorite program of all times. It does things called vector design. A lot of you guys might have heard of that before. Some of you might have made them your own. But vector design is a really great way. If you ever see a billboard or something, text that is really, really enlarged is done with vectors. Because they don't have any kind of little pixels to it. It's a whole different system. But again, just Illustrator, I'm not talking the bundle, I'm talking just Illustrator, is almost $600 freaking for one computer! It's insane. It's insane. So instead I use Inkscape. It costs nothing. Now I won't lie, unlike GIMP, Inkscape is not as powerful as Illustrator. GIMP is as powerful as Photoshop. I'm not lying at all. It's amazing. I use it myself. Inkscape is not as powerful, but it will totally get the job done. So things to think about, right? What happens whenever a logo needs done, right? Maybe you're, for example, our local science team, they had a robotics competition to go to, and they needed a logo. So I set up a project. I had the students design a whole bunch of things, and they came up with this design eventually here. It's the Camden Dinobots, that's what they wanted. So I did go through, I'm not going to lie, I did go through and clean it up once they were done, but they, from start to finish, came up with the idea. Refined the idea. This is a classroom of kids, not just 2 or 3. Came up with the idea, refined the idea, bounced it back and forth between the whole lot of them. I broke them into groups. They sent up to me and they kept getting, checks of approval. Is this cool? Well, maybe we'll think about it. What if you increase this or decrease that and get the idea? Finally, I sent them back to the computers. They used Inkscape to design up the entire logo. I went through and crisped it up. We sent it off to the designer, or the printer, excuse me. Now, a printer normally is going to cost you $500 just for the logo, not including the printing. You've made the logo, you've saved yourself $500, and it's cost you, bang, nothing, right? Saving money. I feel like a car insurance salesman. Saving money. Okay. So, all of a sudden now, students can actually earn money. Instead of using InDesign, which is a text layout program, I use a program called Scribus. Scribus is also totally free. Again, now this is just going to be for page layout, but if you have a school newspaper, if you have a school, even an online newspaper that needs page layout, free, and the students can make it themselves. Now, things to think about. Think how many times your student, or excuse me, your school, your administration sends off to get things built, to get things made, to get things printed. You can do it in-house. Now all of a sudden you have a factory full of, students that are basically free slaves. Let's be fair, that's okay. So use them, why not? And then you give them credit. Now they're building up their portfolio, which is something I did when I was in school. I went to a VOTEC for a while. And I got jobs every week, like actual paying $25, $50 gigs. To me, $50 was like, the greatest thing ever. To the school, $50 is a lot less than $600. So I can toss 50 bucks here, 25 bucks there. The kids will work night and day. I have a kid right now working on a song for a video, and he sent me 3 emails since we've gotten to this conference, just of updates, constantly. Other things, okay, so game design. Kids like games, so let's use that against them. Maya and 3D Studio Max are 3D rendering programs. Again, you can see very, very expensive. CAD, AutoCAD, you guys have heard of that. That's going to be a huge thing in the upcoming years of design and engineering. That's getting massive, along with 3D printing. If you haven't heard about that, you need to jump on YouTube, because it's crazy cool. I'm not lying, I've got a really vested interest in buying a 3D printer. They're getting cheaper and cheaper. I'm like salivating. So all of a sudden you can do some 3D modeling. Pretty soon you'll be able to have your kids print them out. A project that I'm going to do this year, it'll be the first time I'm trying it, but there's a company that you can send away, forgive me, I don't know the name of it, but you can send away 3D models, and they will 3D print them, and then send them back to you for free, other than shipping. Now again, they're keychain size, it's nothing fancy, but it's a way the kids can get a handheld version of something they made in the computer. I use GameMaker. Now, GameMaker can go 3D and fancy, I'm not going to lie. My students have never been able to achieve it in the time that I've given them. I've given them, my digital design class, I have 4 weeks at the end that is devoted to, from start to finish, in a group of 4, making your own video game. There's not 1 second that is wasted. Those kids are on that faster than I can say quickly work, which is not very fast. GameMaker, I use that. Think more like Mario, you know, jumping, hitting blocks and stuff. They still eat it up. Other programs are Construct 2 and Unity. Both range kind of start to go into like the 3D range. Again, if you're not into computer coding and stuff, I would say stay away from those. GameMaker is going to be your big key. All right, so I'm going to speed up a little bit more. So other things. If you know HTML, if you know computer web coding, great. To teach someone to code costs you nothing. You just use Notepad. It already comes in your PC. It's really, really easy. If you don't, there are plenty of free websites out there that can help you kind of design. Frankly, at this point, I hate to say it because I have a background in web design, it's kind of on the way out. At this point, blogs and things are a lot more prominent. So go jump onto Tumblr, go jump onto Blogger, and there's plenty of tutorials out there. Have your students follow along with the tutorial. That's okay. It's all right if you don't know it, but it's whenever you say, I don't know what the heck that is, let's not do it, that's when it's a problem. Simply saying that I don't know is okay, but saying I don't know, let's figure it out together, that's kind of cool. Now all of a sudden they're with you. There's kind of a connection, a bond. Other things, excuse me. All right, so I'm sure you guys know a lot about this. Again, this is kind of repeat stuff, but Evernote, SkyDriver, Dropbox, YouTube, Vimeo, Deviant Art's the one I use, Tumblr, Blogger, a lot of different ways that you can kind of get different sites and different information out there. Also, a lot of you guys might already have a smartboard, which is great. Some of you do not have a smartboard, and that's also great, because I'm not going to lie, in my opinion, keep in mind, this is my opinion, I'm not a fan of them. I don't really like them, especially in the high school. The kids don't want to come up to the screen. They just don't want to. So instead, what I do is I went out, I bought a Wacom bamboo, it cost me about $100. I use it for myself. I hooked it up to the laptop, and then I hooked that up to the projector, and I now have a smartboard that cost me about $100. It's a little, if you don't know what it is, it's a little plastic pad that you can draw right on. It's like an iPad before an iPad. And podcasts. I'm sure you guys have heard about them, but if you have a really cool video and you don't feel comfortable using YouTube or something, you want just straight up audio, there's a lot of free podcasting software out there as well. All right, I'm not going to belabor the point because this was kind of last year's stuff, but you guys have heard about flipping the classroom. Simply this, I've got a camera in the back. This is getting like meta for the people watching at home. I've got a camera in the back, and it's filming this. So if you want to watch it again, you can go online. The second this is over, I'm going to upload this to YouTube, and you guys can go and watch it right then and there. But what it's doing is this. If I say all the information correctly, maybe not even during class, if I spend 5 minutes after school and say my lecture exactly how I want, have cue cards, make it like you're on TV, right? Say all my information exactly how it is. All of a sudden, there is no more, I was sick that day, what did I miss? I say, tough, go on the computer and watch it. I don't have to repeat myself. Why should that kid get a special individual lesson because he had the sniffles? I don't think you taught that to us. Yes, I did. I said it. It's on a video, I've got proof. Go watch the video again. I need a review in class before the big test. I'm not wasting my time to review. There's a video. It's got literally everything we talked about. I'm bored. Great. Get on the computer and learn something. Right? That one's a little bit iffy. But the other ones are gone. Something we'll never have to hear again. And the kids at this point know that in my classroom. They don't come to me and say, well, I don't know. It's right there. There's a computer. Go to it. I will not talk to you. Right? And then they come to it, and I tell them, the second you're done, if there's something you didn't know, please come back to me. I will happily help you. But at the time, if you have zero information, it's out there. Heck, while they're at home with the sniffles, they can watch the video because it's already online. It's already there. And you get a break. I don't have to teach that lesson ever again. It's online. Now there are some things, how do you actually flip the classroom? Well, you can use a document camera, a web camera, cell phones, dear God, cell phones. All right, real quick, I have to go on a slight tangent. I apologize. I'm talking a lot, and hopefully I'm doing okay on time. By the way, in case you're wondering, in my classroom, I don't have clocks, because the students look at them. My cell phone, which is filming us right now, everyone say hello, hello. My cell phone right now has an alarm on it. It is set for 5 minutes before 3:54. So I tell my students all the time, you will get an automatic 5 minutes to use. You can hang out, you can do whatever the heck you want to do, but I own you until that time. They don't even look at the clock anymore. They just wait to hear my pants vibrate, which is a little gross, but it makes sense. So, cell phones, they are not the scourge of our world. In fact, you can go ahead and have your kids film for you. Get multiple cameras, that way you get multiple angles. Make it into a project, have them edit that project. Now all of a sudden you've got a really cool project, and you're flipping the classroom, and they're doing it for you. It's like your own personal video crew. And then you can go ahead, have them film their own video responses as a project for their own self-reflection. Instead of writing it out, they don't like that, go ahead and verbally do it using their cameras on their cell phones. They'll have them, let's use them, because they can't text if they're filming. Sometimes you go to the computer lab. Computers do not work. Cell phones are really, really good. In fact, they can enhance your classroom. Rather than running down to the computer lab where, of course, they get lost in the hallway, because they get lost in the hallway, right? Lost. So now all of a sudden they're wandering the hallways. What do you do with them? Well, if they have a cell phone, they don't have to actually leave the classroom. Instead, they can just look up information on their own. But of course, inevitably, you're going to have that principal or that really nasally, English teacher. God, I hate that nasally, English teacher. Anyway, of course, they're going to bring up, well, you can't have cell phones, cyberbullying. Right? That's how they talk to them. God, it's annoying. All right, here's the cold hard truth. Okay. I mean this in all honesty. Cyberbullying is not the incredible threat that we've made it out to be. In fact, bullying isn't. Let's be fair, we're all art students, we were all bullied, and look at us now, right? So, cyberbullying is not this big threat. I'll show you why. Because real bullying, which is what I got all the time, physically hurts a lot, right? This is painful. And of course, whenever you have a black eye and you run down to the principal, because you're going to get another one soon, because you're going to the principal, what does the principal say? Who did it? And you say, it was Jimmy. And they go, okay, well, let's ask Jimmy if he did it. And Jimmy, of course, is not going to be like, yep, totally punch him in the face. No, he's going to say, no, I would never do such a thing, sir. Why would I do that, right? Now, it's your word against his, and well, Jimmy does extracurriculars, and well, they're going to listen to him more than that quiet art kid who doodles in your class. Technology is the best thing that could have ever happened. So here's a play-by-play, right? This is true, totally not made up. Okay, you ready? 21st century bullying. Here we go. This kid happens to go online. He checks his Facebook, his Twitter, whatever. Look at this jerk. God. Timmy K. on 10/5/13 at 3:24. It's happening right now. It's happening right now. He says, I hate you so much. You're dumb. He can't spell well. He doesn't hang out with that English teacher. But Timmy K is a big jerk. So, of course, our friend, he's going to respond, Johnny T, at this time right here. He says, why would you say such a thing? That is bullying. I am going to tell on you, because he's 6 and he talks like that. So, of course, Timmy K responds, go and try. No one will believe you. Again, he needs to give it English more often, right? Timmy K, what a jerk that Timmy K is. And, of course, the next post is, Principal Joe, I'll see you in my office tomorrow. Because, of course, there are time codes stamped to everything, and it's directly linked to his account. So, short of him proving, without a shadow of a doubt, that his account was hacked into, yeah, Timmy K's going to the office for a long time. It's the best thing that could have ever happened to bullying. We have proof now. All right, switch over. iPads, one-to-one. Now, it doesn't have to be an iPad. I am going to talk about iPads, specifically with any kind of tablet PC. Basically, the next step. You guys know all this stuff already. Maybe your school already is one-to-one. My school is not, because we're really, really poor. So instead, the downfalls. It is expensive up front. In the long run, really, really saves you money. I'll talk about that in a second. And it is quickly outdated. We'll talk about that in a second, too. Upsides. You never have to buy art supplies again. There's an app out there for basically whatever the heck you want. Now, I'm a fan, Art 3, you really want them to get their hands on it. But Art 1, they basically just destroy art supplies. Oh, I need a marker. And the tip is gone, right? It's horrible. It's depressing, really. I love Sharpies, and it's a wasteland of Sharpies, right? Just destroyed. So instead, don't give your art ones Sharpies, give them an iPad. I know that sounds kind of silly, but they're less likely to break the iPad, and even if they do, well, then it's on them. So never buy textbooks again. There's no reason for textbooks in the art room, period. But on top of that, there's no reason for textbooks in a school. They're really, really outdated. Give responsibility to the students. Again, it is in their hands now. They break it, they bought it. And sure as heck, they don't have the $500 to pay for it. No excuses for homework assignments. If they're allowed to take it home, they are bringing the classroom with them. It's that easy. I didn't make that gesture. It's very dramatic. I want to be a skater. Okay. All right. Lots and lots of iPad apps. Please feel free to take a picture or something. But I will send this to you. I have a laundry list of them. This is the short list. These are the ones that I personally use in my own lifestyle. The one I love the best, personally, I'm going to really tout it for a moment, is Procreate. It's a drawing app. Inkpad is a vector-based program. So instead of using Inkscape, instead of using Illustrator, have them do it right in the iPad. I've spent many, many moons trying to figure out what iPad apps can replace computer apps, and honestly, this list alone makes the computer completely invalid. Finally, all of these apps combined cost about $30 for like everyone. So, you know, to walk up to a principal and say, what's your yearly budget per student, and you say $30, they're going to say, oh, well, that's really low. That's reasonable. All right, so I'm going to speed up here real quick. I'll let you take some more notes here. Again, please feel free if you have any questions along the way. I am more than happy not only to help, but to send you this stuff as well. All right. So, I'll go back, I promise. All right, so A, one-to-one, it's too expensive. Well, you're right. An iPad up front is about $500, and that's without the school discount. So, like, this is you walk down to the Apple store. They are really expensive, you know, per each. That's crazy. But the students can buy the apps themselves. Let's be fair; they pay for pencils and notebooks and pens and printer ink at home and their own iPad apps and you know project supplies. They're buying all this crap anyway. Just tell them to buy an app and you know never to buy a pencil again. There's no more. You know, do you have a pencil? No, I do not. There's no need for it. Go completely digitally. The average school alone goes from about $7,000 all the way up to $15,000 per student per year. It's a huge amount, right? 15 grand per student per year. I actually called around to different schools and asked them about their amount. I did it for about 20 different schools and averaged it. That's what we're talking per student. Now, again, that's not including food, but that is including textbooks, project supplies, a whole bunch of other stuff. Now, again, this is per student, so that's not just the art room. That's the whole shebang. But again, you could limit even the smallest amount down to about $500. Even if the students go halfsies with it, they can go halfsies with you, right? $250 is really, really cheap. Just saying. Again, it doesn't even have to be an iPad. Outdated. Okay. Hey, it's already outdated. The iPad's awesome, but it's already outdated. That's how outdated everything is. But that's okay, because it still does the job that you're looking for it to do. All of our current tech is already outdated. Your computers in school are already outdated. So the excuse of, oh, the iPad could be outdated. Yes, but we're already using outdated material, and it hasn't stopped us yet. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Thankfully, it's already broken. And of course, let's be fair. What's the follow-through? Oh, it's really outdated. Well, what we're using already? Something that's extremely outdated. Now again, I like books. Don't get me wrong, but Kindle's awesome too. All right. So the administration. If anyone in here is administration, hear me. All right. You can do your part. Go digital. Save money. Huzzah! All right. No more textbooks for any class ever. Teachers, you guys are all really, really smart. We have personal knowledge. We can make our own textbooks. And you can with iBooks. You can just go online and make your own textbook now. So make your own. As well as internet sources like Wikipedia. I revel in telling the English teachers this, because they always say you can't use Wikipedia as a source if you're doing a paper. The Associated Press uses Wikipedia. So if your kids are going to use the Associated Press, it's probably coming from Wikipedia. Just saying. They start to lose their hair at that. I already am starting to. Teachers and administrators never use MS Office again. Between using Prezi, OpenOffice, Google Docs, MS Office is completely outdated at this point. And I hate to say it because I do really like MS Office, but it's Smart Prezi Classroom, replace it with the Wacom or the iPad. It's crazy easy. Online syllabuses, never print something out again. Just email it to them, have a Dropbox, tell them to go to it. There's no excuse. Oh, I left it at home. It's online. You can't leave it at home. Whew. All right, making money. Wow, I know, so much information. Your hands are getting cramped, so I apologize. Ask parents for donations. I know that sounds really lame, but you know, what are we doing anyway? We're basically asking for donations. That's not a problem. I have no problem. All right, so old using textbooks. Now that goes more on the administrative side of things. But seriously, we've got stacks of textbooks that are literally going to rot away. Find some way. Hell, even give them away. Just get rid of them. I don't really want them anymore. Or we can turn art projects into them. I've done that too, but I haven't told anyone about it. Give them to other public schools that are still using textbooks, that are even lower on the totem pole than you are. All right, this goes for every art teacher ever. Please, save usable scrap paper, but throw out the rest. We're all a bunch of hoarders. It's really crazy. If your students walk into a crazy, messy room, they're going to leave it as a crazy, messy room. Keep it immaculate. It's close to godliness. I promise. They will respect it more. I'm not saying they won't doodle on your desks. I really promise they will. But they'll doodle less because, well, it's already that clean. And if you keep up on it, then it can't get into a crazy hoarder mess. All right, other ways to make money. Group projects, they cost a lot less. Simple, right? Less things, less supplies. Charge other teachers for using your supplies. They steal back, right? Oh, you want some posters? Great, I got a good deal for you, let me tell you. Right? I heard about this last year, actually. Someone was talking about using a rental cart. It's a great idea. I've actually implemented it. Wonderful. Charge students for certain supplies, i.e. if you are going to steal pencils, charge them a dime. 9 times out of 10, they've got something they can muscle around. I don't give them a pencil otherwise. I've had students that just sit. Sucks to be you, pal. That's all there is to it. I have deadlines with my projects, so if you don't bring a pencil, you're 1 day late on the deadline. That's going to really stink. You better do some homework, right? You got to be a little bit tough. All right, so bake sales, they're really lame and technically illegal now, which is kind of weird. I don't know if you guys heard about that whole deal, that spiel. Yeah, I know. So they are kind of lame anyway, so don't do a bake sale. Have an art gallery for charity. Go 50-50. All of a sudden you get the community involved. You can sell a couple pieces of artwork. You give a little bit to the kid, so they're happy because they made the art. You keep a little bit, great, and the charity gets a little bit. Everybody wins. Other ways to make money. Have an open mic night, trivia, music, poetry, stand-up comedy. I'm sure there's the funny kid in your class getting to make you money. Charge $1 for admission. All of a sudden that funny kid who likes to talk during class is now writing jokes in your class because he's going to make you money. If you must spend your own money, remember that you do get tax deductions up to $250. Also, I have a bad movie night. I love movies. These are posters that I've made for the bad movie night. I charge $2. Now, technically, these are all royalty-free movies, so I'm legally allowed to charge for them. If you want to do like a showing of, Lord of the Rings, someone will come and find you. So don't play that. Go with royalty-free, cheesy, really bad movies. Also, if someone ever comes down and you tell them that you're charging them for popcorn or something, or it's a donation, it's really great. I suggest you give me money. I'm not kidding you. This was just last year alone. I charged $2. I have, give or take, between 50 to 30 kids show up. I do it once a month. I've more than doubled my yearly budget. It's crazy. So whenever the teachers are running around saying, "Oh, I need to buy supplies," I say, "Yeah, I do too." I just go and get reimbursed because I've got $500 that I'm sitting on that I earned. It's mine. The school can't tell you, "Oh, no, it's mine. Go to the bank and get it." Cool. All right, really quick, we're just kind of summarizing. This is a couple examples of student work that I've done, or that my students have done. Excuse me. We have a whole halftone project. This is tempera paint. It's very vibrant. The students have to plan it ahead of time. They start with a very teeny tiny comic that's in black and white. They have to figure out the colors ahead of time. So we talk about primary colors and how to mix and match using just a halftone, kind of old comic book printing style. They then have to enlarge that project very largely and go ahead and paint it as well. It's about a week-long lesson, and the kids really seem to dig it. Other projects, again, ways to make money, right? I have my seniors, they make their own playing card faces. I go onto a website called Game Crafters, and they print them out for you. Yeah, Game Crafters, it's really cool. It's a little bit hard to navigate, but once you figure it out, it's super easy. You upload the front faces of the card, and they'll print them out. You can upload the back as well. Each deck costs about $10. So, the parents, teachers, everybody buys a deck, and again, raising more money. Other things, just a couple of random examples. I do a connection with the students over at the elementary school. So the students draw monsters, and then we draw them overly realistically, so it builds up their skill a little bit, and it kind of ties in the third grade class with the high school class. Paper cutouts here, this is about yay big. Cost me a sheet of black paper. It's really easy. Photoshop. I do a project that I love and the students love very much, which is making Pokemon in real life. They get a great kick out of that. Photoshop as well, I teach them actual usable skills like getting rid of objects. So in this case I said keep the cutest thing, so they kept the puppy. And then even just watercolors. This entire picture, which is now over at DPI, one of my students had done, and it cost her nothing because it was like the cheap $1 set of watercolors at the dollar store. A couple other things again, I'm trying to go as quickly as I can, I apologize. Spray paint. When I grew up in Pittsburgh, kind of in the inner city, so I was used to doing spray paint and graffiti. Not that I've ever done such a thing, but I'm aware of it. Anyway, my hands are dirty with paint. Anyway, so we tied it in. We talked about doing stenciling. So each student did a stencil of a different president in the kind of Obama Shepherd Ferry style. And then we grabbed some of that brick masonite board. We spray painted it on with the two-tone. So each stencil, each tone is a different stencil. They had to line up, they had to do a research paper on the president and come up with one word that summarizes their entire presidency. And then we spray painted the whole thing, and it's now hanging up in the history hallway. And what's nice is on masonite board, so we can take it back down again. Probably my biggest claim to fame that I'm uber happy about, you can see this is kind of a close-up of it here. I work with another school up in Pittsburgh that I'm really good friends with their teacher. And they do a digital design program. The entire thing is on the computer. So I sent over a picture of a couple US people that you might have heard of. I'll show you in a second here. And I broke it down into 554 squares, 2-inch by 2-inch squares. I broke that down, the whole image. Each student got a half-inch by half-inch square, teeny, teeny, tiny, so they have to really focus on what colors are inside the square, and they enlarge it to 2 inches by 2 inches. My class painted the entire thing, little tiny square at a time. Their class did the entire thing digitally. We switched half of them randomly, and when we were all said and done, there are now 2 of these murals that exist. One in my school that's hanging up, and then one that's hanging up in Pittsburgh. It's the inverse. So if you look, again, you can't see it really closely, but like Lincoln's eye here is all digital. There's some painting. If you see it up close, you can really tell how the flatness versus kind of the textured surface. It's all put together. I built a frame for it, did a little bit of woodworking, and it's hanging up inside the library right now. It's massive, by the way. It's probably double this size. Prom, we did kind of old world Hollywood. Of course, we are the bastion of prom, so they dump it on us, right? But have some fun with it and make it simple. We wanted to do really big murals, so I just projected them real quick and sketched them out. I sketched them myself just for quickness, kept handing them down, and they wanted to do all sorts of colors. I said, no, we're sticking to this. We ended up doing about 10 of these of different artists, or excuse me, different movie stars. And then we sold them in theater. So all of that supply, we actually paid back the supply fee for all of the prom, and then we kept about $200. I think, and we had it was like a Chinese raffle kind of thing. So like we sold them off different variations, different costs. I think Maryland went for like 50. So. Finally, very, very last one, I promise. It's a little bit faint, but again, I can send you the actual PowerPoint if you're interested. We'll send you a link to the actual piece of artwork. My after-school program, we made a 37-foot long mural. It spans the entire length of our science hallway. Student, from start to finish, it is completely student-driven. Students designed it from start to finish. You can see it's kind of like the beginning of life, and then kind of protozoa stuff and floats along. You can see some dinosaurs along the way, and then eventually get all the way up to man, which is just symbolized by the student. Keep in mind, this student was amazing. This student actually went through, figured out the length of the mural, figured out how much time compared to real life it would actually be. Humanity would only be a tiny little sliver, so rather than showing, Cro-Magnons coming out of the earth and stuff, he literally just took a silhouette of one of the students, did the outline of the silhouette, and in here, I don't know if you can tell, this is all of him, mind you. He did a campfire, and out of the fire is bursting a space shuttle. So he summarized all of human history in a silhouette, and that much. Again, that was totally that student, but he did the picture. We projected it up as an after-school program. These are all Masonite boards. There's about 8 of them. We projected it up, and the students just kept going. Now, I'm not going to lie, it could have taken a very long time. They did this entire 37-foot mural after school, 1 day a week. They did it in 6 months because I'm a slave driver. I'm really good. But it's, keep in mind, my after-school program is about 10 kids. So you can do the math how long that actually took, but not very long. If you really keep on them, your students will surprise you. I'll leave you with this. My overall kind of main theme in life, especially when it comes to teaching, is I'm going to hold the bar really, really, really high, and they're all going to miss it. But they're going to get right about here, which is a lot higher than every other teacher holds their bar. Let them fail. Hold it up. Don't lower it. Just say, you will never reach this, but they're sure as hell going to try. They're sure as hell going to try. So, let me leave you with a joke, because, well, why not? So, obviously this is what you're thinking right now. Alright, we are carpenters of the mind, right? That's what we do. We build from nothingness, right? We build from nothingness. But the key is this, your budget, which relates to your supplies, doesn't really matter, right? You've all heard the old adage, a carpenter with really old tools, or a carpenter with power tools. Doesn't really matter what kind of tools you have, it matters how you use it, because again, remember that we are the carpenters. And all this information that you just learned, take it in, think about it, and remember, we've only just begun. Carpenters, right? Thank you. That's all the pictures. If you guys are interested at all, wow, lots of pictures. If you guys are interested in all these couple of students who were in this, this is my website. It's Kozakology, the study of me. Kozakology. From there, you're going to find links not only to my artwork, but you'll also find links to anything that I do in this classroom. If you have any interest or any information that you really want, again, if you want this specific PowerPoint or just want to keep in touch with me, hit me up on LinkedIn, send me an email. Really, there's about 4,000 different ways to get in contact with me. Please do. Just send me an email and say, hey, I really want that email or the PowerPoint. I'll happily zip it on over to you. Okay? Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Hope you liked it. Yeah!